I am Dr. Arul Selvi, Associate Professor, Department of ECE, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. I am going to discuss about the topic cellular concept and frequency use. The concept of cellular mobile communication. So, cellular network is an underlying technology for mobile phones, personal communication systems, wireless networking, etc. So, the technology is developed for the mobile radio phone in order to replace the high power transmitters or the receiving systems. So, the cellular network it uses only the lower power, short range, and more transmitters for the data transmission. That is, instead of using a high power transmitter for covering the entire geographical region in the cellular network, it divides the entire geographical area into smaller regions called cells. So each cell will consist of its own base station, which is responsible for covering that particular region alone. So that is the principle of working of the cellular mobile communication. So this shows the block diagram of the cellular mobile communication. So the entire geographical region is divided into smaller region called the cells. Each cell consists of its own base station. This base station is responsible for covering this particular region alone. So if any user within that particular cell wishes to call to another user in another cell, so the call is transferred from the mobile user to that particular base station, and from the particular base station to the MSC, and from the MSC to the base station at which the called user is located, and from the particular base station the call will be transferred to the destination user. So this is the principle of working of the cellular mobile communication, and mobile switching center which controls and coordinates all the activities uh, for the calls. So if the mobile user wishes to call to the landline subscriber, so the call will be transferred from the mobile user to the base station, and from the base station to the mobile switching center, and the mobile switching center to the through the public switch telephone network, it will be connected to the landline subscriber. So this is the principle of working of the cellular mobile communication. That is, in this, the entire geographical area is divided into smaller regions called cells. So each cell consists of its own base station. So this base station is responsible for covering that particular region alone. So instead of using a large power transmitter for covering the entire service area, so it consists of number of low power transmitters, which is responsible for covering the small coverage area called the cells. So this is the principle of working of the cellular mobile communication. So features of cellular systems. Wireless cellular systems, it solves the problem of spectral congestion and increases the user capacity. That is, within a limited spectrum. Spectral congestion means within a limited spectrum, it is possible to cover the entire geographical area. So increases the user capacity. That is, within a limited spectrum, so the same set of frequencies can be reused number of times. That is, the use capacity is improved. So the features of the cellular system are, it offers a very high capacity in a limited spectrum, reuse of radio channels in different cells. That is, the same set of frequencies can be reused number of times. So enables a fixed number of channels to serve an arbitrary large number of users by reusing the channel throughout the coverage region. Communication is always between the mobile and the base station and not directly between the mobiles. Each cellular base station is allocated a group of radio channels within a small geographical area called the cell. So neighboring cells are assigned different channel groups. So by limiting the coverage area to within the boundary of the cell, the channel groups can be reused to cover different cells. So keep interference limits within the tolerable, keep the interference levels within the tolerable limits. So frequency reuse or the frequency planning. So we already know that. So each cell will be allocated a group of channels, and so that the entire set of frequencies will be divided among some group of cells, and same set of frequencies can be reused after some particular distance at which the interference is minimum. So that is called the frequency reuse or the frequency planning. So the cellular network is organized into multiple low power transmitters each having 100 watts. So for a given distance between the, so next we are going to discuss about the shape of the cells. So why we are choosing the hexagonal shape for the cells. So the coverage area of the cellular networks are divided into cells, each cell having its own antenna which for transmitting the signals. So each cell has its own frequencies. Data communication in the cellular network is served by its base station transmitter, receiver, and its control unit. The shape of the cells, it can be either square or triangle or hexagon. That is, only these three shapes, it covers the entire geographical area without any gaps between them. So out of these three, if the square cell, it has 4 neighbors at distance d and 4 other neighbors at distance root 2d, like that. So that only if the adjacent antennas are equidistant, only that adjacent antennas are equidistant, situations will be better. So choosing and switching to a new antenna, so it requires a hexagonal shape for the cells. So for a given distance between the center of the polygon and its farthest perimeter points, the hexagon has the largest area of the three. If you compare the three shapes, that is the triangle or the square or the hexagon, only in the hexagonal shape from the center point to the farthest parameter, only it has the largest area. Only the hexagonal shape provides the largest area. Therefore, the hexagonal shape is preferred for the cells. So thus by using the hexagonal geometry, the fewest number of cells can cover a geographical area, and the hexagon closely approximates a circular radiation pattern which would occur for an omnidirectional base station antenna and free space propagation. So this is the hexagonal shape. So this shows the scenery of the hexagonal shape for the cells. Each cell has its own base station, which is responsible for covering its own region. Next, we are going to discuss about the frequency reuse. So each cellular base station is allocated a group of radio channels to be used within a smaller geographical area called the cell. So base stations in the adjacent cells are assigned a channel groups which contain completely different channels than the neighboring cells. So base station antennas are designed to achieve the designed coverage within a particular cell. So each and every cell, it will be allocated a group of radio channels and which should be used within that particular region called the cell. So by limiting the coverage area within the boundaries of the cells, the same group of channels, it can be used to cover different cells that are separated from one another by a geographic distances larger enough and also by keeping the interference levels within the tolerable limits. So here, the entire set of frequencies, it will be divided among some group of cells, and the same set of frequencies can be reused after some particular distance at which the interference is minimum. So this technique is called the frequency reuse. So this design process of selecting and allocating the channel groups for all the cellular base stations within a system is called the frequency reuse or the frequency planning. So here in this, it shows the frequency reuse. Here the entire set of frequencies, for example, 700 megahertz. So 700 megahertz is the 0 to 700 megahertz is the frequency range allocated to a particular service area. In the 0 to 100 hertz, it will be allocated to the cell A, and 100 to 200 it will be allocated to cell B, and 200 to 300 it will be allocated to cell 3, and 300 to 400 to cell D, and 400 to 500 to cell E, and 500 to 600 to cell F, and 600 to 700 to cell G. So the entire set of frequencies, it will be divided among the group of cells. So these group of channels, that is the frequencies or the channels that is allocated to the particular group of cells, it can be reused after some particular distance. So these same set of frequencies can be reused after some particular distance at which the interference is minimum. So the cells named as AAA are called the co-channel cells. They are called the co-channel cells which contain the same set of frequencies. So AAA are called the co-channel cells. Here B are called the co-channel cells. That is, the cells which contain the same set of frequencies are called the co-channel cells. So A and B are called the adjacent channel cells, which consist the frequencies which is adjacent to each other. So this shows the scenario of the frequency reuse or the frequency planning. So this is the main feature of the cellular mobile communication. So next, cluster and the capacity. Consider a cellular system which has a total of S duplex channels available for use. So the total number of channels available for use is taken as S, and if each cell is allocated a group of K channels, that is, the number of channels allocated to each cell is K. And so if the S channels are divided among N cells and disjoint channel groups which each have same number of channels, the total number of available radio channels can be expressed as S is equal to K into N. So S is the total number of channels available for the entire system, and here N is the total number of cells available, and K is the number of channels allocated to each cell. So the total number of radio channels available, it can be written as K into N. So N cells which collectively use the complete set of available frequencies is called the cluster. So cluster means, so the entire set of frequencies which is divided among some N number of cells is called as the cluster. So the group of cells which collectively use the complete set of frequencies is called the cluster. So it shows the cluster size of 3, 4, 7 and 9. So here it shows the cluster size of 3, cluster size of 7 and cluster size of 4 and cluster size of 9. That is, the entire set of frequencies is divided among 3 cells. That is, N is equal to 3. So the entire set of frequencies is divided among N cells. That is, N is equal to 7. Here the entire set of frequencies divided among 4 cells. That is, N is equal to 4. Here the entire set of frequencies is divided among 9 cells. Therefore, N is equal to 9. So it shows the cluster size. So if the cluster is replicated M times within the system, the total number of duplex channels, that is the C, it can be a measure of capacity, and it is given by C is equal to MKN, which is equal to M into S. That is, the same set of frequencies is reused number of times. So M is the total number of times that is reused within the system. Then the total number of duplex channels available is a measure of capacity. So which is given by the capacity is equal to M into Kn. So K is the number of channels allocated to the cell, N is the number of cells available, and M is the number of times the frequencies are reused within the system. So MKN, otherwise M into S, which gives the system capacity. So the capacity of the cellular system is directly proportional to the number of times a cluster is replicated in a fixed service area. A larger cluster size, it causes the ratio between the cell radius and distance between the co-channel cells to decrease, leading to weaker co-channel interference. So method of locating the co-channel cells. So how to locate the co-channel cells? So if the smaller cluster size means it indicates that the co-channel cells are located much closer together. So from the design point of view, the smallest possible value of N is desirable in order to maximize the capacity over a given coverage area. So here in this, the geometry of the hexagon is such that the number of cells per cluster N, which satisfies the following: N is equal to I square plus Ij plus J square, where I and J are the non-negative integers. So in order to locate the co-channel cells, so in order to find the nearest co-channel neighbors of a particular cell, one must do the following. That is, You have to move I number of cells along any chain of hexagon. And next step is to turn 60 degrees counterclockwise and move j number of cells. So here it shows the method of locating the co-channel cells. And here, so moving I number of cells along the chain of hexagon and take 60 degree counterclockwise direction and moving j number of cells. Here I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 2. So if you substitute here, I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 2, you will be getting n is equal to 19. So n is equal to 19 is the cluster size. So this is the method of locating the co-channel cells. So next, handoff in the cellular. Handoff in the cellular telecommunications. If a mobile user moves in a different cell while a conversation is in progress, the received signal strength from the base station, it will become weak. Therefore, the call may be dropped or discontinued. So the process of transferring the mobile station's call from one frequency channel or base station to another is called a handoff. So the process of transferring a call from one base station to another base station without termination is called as the handoff. So when a mobile moves in a different cell while a conversation is in progress, the call gets automatically transferred to a new channel which belongs to the new base station. So that is called the handoff. The handoff, it should be performed successfully and infrequently as possible in order to minimize the load on the system, and it should be unknown to the user. That is, the handoffs means while the mobile user is moving from one base station to another base station, the call should be properly transferred from one base station to another base station without termination. That is, it should be performed successfully without termination, and also it should be performed infrequently. It should not occur often. Otherwise, it will increase the load of the system. That is, it will become burden to the mobile switching center. To achieve all this, a complete information of the minimum detectable signal level, that is threshold, that is the handoff threshold is required. So a threshold level is required in order to achieve this. A slightly stronger signal level is used as the threshold at which the handoff is initiated. So a slightly stronger signal level at which the voice quality is maintained. A slightly greater than this level is maintained as the threshold. So here in this, so this is the base station 1 and this is base station 2. So a user in base station 1, initially the received signal level, it will be at point A, and here this is minimum acceptable signal level to maintain the call is this, and slightly greater than this is taken as the threshold. If the received signal quality falls below this threshold level, then the call will be terminated. So while without transferring the call to the base station 2, the call will get terminated. So this is called the improper handoff situation. So here in this, so this shows the proper handoff situation. If the received signal level is maintained at the threshold level, so at this level, the call should be transferred from base station 1 to base station 2. So it should be maintained from base station 1 to base station 2. So the level at which the handoff is made. So that is, the call should be properly transferred to base station 2. So this is called the proper handoff situation. So we demonstrated the scenario where the handoff is not made. That is the improper handoff situation. And the signal drops below the minimum acceptable level required to keep the channel active. So this dropped call event can happen where there is a large delay by the MSC in assigning a handoff, or when the threshold is set too small for the handoff. So excessive delays may occur during the high traffic conditions due to the computational loading at the mobile switching center, or due to the fact that no channels are available on any of the nearby base stations. Therefore, so excessive delays. So delay in transferring the call, it occurs when the MSC, due to the high traffic conditions at MSC, and if channels are not available on the nearby base station. So only under these two conditions, delay occurs. So we also discussed about the proper handoff situation. That is the proper handoff scenario in which the handoff threshold was correctly defined and the signal did not fall below the, that is beyond the threshold. So this handoff threshold level, it should not be very high to avoid the unnecessary handoff scenarios. It should not be very low, as there will be insufficient time to given to complete the process handoff, which may cause call drops. So if the threshold level is very small, then the time will be insufficient for completing the process of handoff, so which results in the call termination. So therefore, the delta value, that is the difference between the minimum detectable signal level and the handoff threshold, is usually kept in the range of 0 to 6 dBs in the modern cellular communication systems. Practical value taken by most of the service providers is 2 dB. So next we are going to discuss about the channel assignment strategies. There are two channel assignment strategies in the cellular system. That is a channel allocation problem. One is called the static channel allocation. Other one is called the dynamic channel allocation. So static channel allocation is otherwise called as the fixed channel allocation or the fixed channel assignment. In the fixed channel assignment, each cell is permanently allocated predetermined group of channels. So each cell will be allocated a predetermined group of channels. So if any call attempt within the cell can only be served by the unused channels in that particular cells. So if all the channels are used means, then the call will be blocked. That is, if all the channels are occupied, then the call will be blocked and the subscriber does not receive any service. So this is the fixed channel assignment. That is, some predetermined group of channels, it will be allocated to a particular cell, and if all the channels are used, or occupied, then the call will be blocked. So that is the case of the fixed channel assignment strategy. So in this, borrowing technique is can be applied in this, where a cell is allowed to borrow the channels from the neighboring cells if all the channels are already occupied. So in the mobile's base station, so it monitors the function of this base station. That is the mobile switching center. It monitors the function of the base station, including the borrowing. So it ensures that it does not result in interfere with any call in progress in the donor cell. So that is the fixed channel assignment strategy. So next one, dynamic channel assignment strategy. So in the dynamic channel assignment strategy, voice channels are not allocated permanently. So only the channels are allocated at the time of demand. So the entire pool of frequency channels lies with the MSC, and each time a call request is made, the serving base station, it requests the channel from the mobile switching center. So it requests the channel from the mobile switching center. So after that, it allocates a channel to the requested cell following an algorithm. So the mobile switching center, it allocates the frequency channels on the dynamic basis. If that frequency channel is not presently in use in the cell or any other cell which falls within the minimum restricted distance of frequency reuse to avoid the co-channel interference. So here in the dynamic channel assignment strategy, the voice channels, they are not allocated permanently. So they will be allocated only on the basis of the demand and by following an algorithm. So that is, by allocating the channel to a particular cell, it should not result in the call blocking. So that is the constraint that is followed by the MSC while allocating the channel to the particular cell, and also to avoid the interference. So it reduces the chances of blocking, which increases the trunking capacity of the system, as well as available channels are accessible to all cells. So in this MSC, it has to collect the data, that is the real-time data on the channel occupancy, traffic distribution, radio signal strength indication of all channels on the continuous basis, thus increasing the computational load on MSC. So while allocating the channels, so before allocating the channels, so the MSC has to collect the data on the channel occupancy. So while allocating a channel to a particular user, it should not result in the call blocking. So it should collect the data of channel occupancy, traffic distribution, and the radio signal strength indication of all channels. So due to which, by increasing the computational load on the MSC. So next one is the umbrella cell approach. So capacity of the cellular system, it can be increased by using additional cell sites, but it is practically difficult to get new physical site in the urban areas. So thus, instead of new cell sites, additional channels and base stations, it can be installed to increase the capacity. So to the same cell site, additional channels and base stations are installed in order to increase the capacity. That is, different antenna heights and different power levels, it can be used to provide small and large cells which located in a single site. So this technique is called the umbrella cell approach. So this shows the umbrella cell approach. So in this cell, so this shows the large cell with high power transmitter, in which it is again divided into smaller micro cells with low power transmitters. So this is for the low speed users, and larger cell with high speed larger cell with high power transmitter is for the high speed users. So this umbrella cell approach is used to provide larger coverage area for the high speed users, while smaller area coverage for the low speed users. It also ensures additional micro channels for the pedestrian users. So the speed of each user is estimated by the base station or the mobile switching center by evaluating how rapidly the short-term average signal strength on the reverse voice channel changes over time or with sophisticated algorithms. So if the high-speed user in the large umbrella cell is approaching the base station and its velocity is rapidly decreasing, so the base station may decide to hand the user into a co-located microcell without MSC permission. So this approach is basically to reduce the number of handoff for the high-speed users. So the main aim of the umbrella cell approach is that some pedestrian users, they are the low speed users. So they never need a handoff. So during their, they never need a handoff while crossing the cellular region. But high speed users, so while traveling in a vehicle, they will be moving from one base station to another base station. Therefore, the handoffs, so these high-speed users, they'll need a number of handoffs. So in order to compensate the high-speed users and low-speed users, this umbrella cell approach is used. So in this larger cell with high-power transmitter is for the high-speed user, and this micro cells with low-power transmitter is for the low-speed users. So next one is the multiple access techniques. So multiple access schemes are used to allow number of mobile users to share simultaneously a finite amount of radio spectrum. So in the wireless communication system, it is often desirable to allow the subscriber to send the information simultaneously from the mobile station to the base station, while receiving the information from the base station to the mobile station. A cellular system, it divides any given area into cells where a mobile unit in each cell communicates with the base station. The main aim in the cellular system is able to increase the capacity of the channel, that is to handle as many calls as possible in a given bandwidth with a sufficient level of quality of service. So there are different ways to allow the access to the channel. So these includes mainly the following: frequency division multiplexers, time division multiplexers, code division multiplexers, the space division multiplexers. So depending on how available bandwidth is allocated to the users, so these techniques can be classified as narrowband and wideband systems. In the narrowband systems, the systems operating with the channels which is substantially narrower than the coherence bandwidth, that is called the narrowband systems. So in this case, narrowband TDMA, that is time division multiplexers technique, it allows the users to use the same channel, but it allocates only a unique time slot to each user on the channel. So thus operating a small number of users in time on a single channel. So in the wideband systems, the transmission bandwidth of the single channel is much larger than the coherence bandwidth. So in this, the multipath fading does not greatly affect the received signal within a wideband channel, and the frequency selective fades occurs only in a small fraction of the signal bandwidth. So first, we are going to discuss about the frequency division multiplexers. So in the frequency division multiplexers, each user will be assigned a unique frequency. So FDMA is the basic technology for the advanced mobile phone services. So the features of this FDMA are, so FDMA means it allows a different subband frequency to each different user in order to access the network. So if the FDMA is not used, then the channel it will be left idle instead of allotting to other users. So FDMA is implemented in the narrowband systems. So this is less complex than the TDMA. The type filtering is done here in order to reduce the adjacent channel interference. The base station and the mobile station, it transmit and receive simultaneously and continuously in the FDMA. Next one, time division multiplexers. So in this, the user will be sharing the single carrier frequency, but at different time slots. That is non-overlapping time slot. That is called the time division multiplexers. So in this case, where continuous transmission is not required, in that case only TDMA is used instead of FDMA. The features of the TDMA are that it shares a single carrier frequency with several users, in which where the users makes use of non-overlapping time slots. So the data transmission in the TDMA is not a continuous process, it occurs in the bursts. So the handoff process is simpler. The TDMA uses different time slots for the transmission and reception, therefore duplexers are not required. So it has an advantage, the TDMA technique has an advantage, it is possible to allocate different number of time slots per frame to different users. The bandwidth can be supplied on demand to different users by concatenating or reassigning the time slot based on the priority. So next one is the code division multiplexers. So in this code division multiplexer, each user will assign a unique code. So therefore, unique code. So due to which the users can able to access the full available spectrum at any time. So code division multiplexers is an example of multiplexers where several transmitters use a single channel to send information simultaneously. So the features are that in CDMA, every user uses the full available spectrum instead of getting allotted by separate frequency. So it is much recommended. CDMA technique is much recommended for voice and data communications. So while multiple codes occupies the same channel in the CDMA, the users have the same code, can communicate with each other. CDMA offers more airspace capacity than TDMA. The handoffs between the base stations is very well handled by the CDMA technique. So this shows the FDMA, TDMA and CDMA.